Hello, EnteiTainment here. My name is Daniel, welcoming you to my CSML Season 7 Meet the Draft video. It's not going to be super in-depth, just for you guys to see what I'm working with this season and what Pokemon you can choose to be your favorite or whichever one you're rooting for. Whatever the case may be, you can leave MVP votes down in the comment section if you want to. But hopefully this video will not be that long. I don't know if I'm going to release a more in-depth video later because I'm just kind of nervous to be revealing my thoughts, especially if my opponents are potentially watching these videos, so I apologize. If you want a more in-depth video, I will definitely bring that out to you guys. Just please let me know in the comment section. I can be talking more about like overall synergy and what my entire draft struggles with and what it's good against, because this video is really just about each Pokemon individually and giving each one the spotlight for like a minute or so. So let me know if you like it, let me know if you don't like it, and please let me know if you want a more, like a longer, more in-depth video. But getting into it, this is what I was thinking about before the draft started. I wanted to draft bulky offense because last season I tried hyper offense and I just wanted to do something different. I really loved hyper offense, but I still want to expand my knowledge about draft-based formats, so I decided I would do something different, and sort of hand in hand with that, I wanted to draft mons that I had never really used before, just so I can really get a better feel of draft-based format and broaden my horizons, as it were. I wanted a strong, balanced defensive core, which is something I've always managed to struggle with. Either it got sniped in the past, or like I was running hyper offense, so I didn't have a defensive core to speak of, let alone a strong, balanced one. So something I was thinking about this season is I wanted a fire, water, grass defensive core, because you guys know I love my trios, so that is something I was looking for in high tier, which is not something I had done in the past. Normally I had just tried to go full offense in high tiers and let my lower tier mons take the defensive brunt, but this time I sort of flipped the scale and went for my defensive mons in higher tiers. And finally, I was looking for a lot of hazard control, a lot of different ways to set up hazards, a lot of different ways to get rid of hazards, and that was one of the main things, or one of the main three things I was also looking for. So as you can kind of tell, not a whole lot of thought process went into this. This is literally the three things. Like, I'm not even under exaggerating. Like, this is actually it. This is what I was thinking, and that's the end of it. Like, I barely even had my picks planned out. I was just seeing what was going to happen. So anyway, jumping right into it with my two A-tier picks. I got my first A-tier pick as Kyurem Black because I was the first A-tier picker in the draft order. There was no chance of me getting sniped whatsoever, and I knew I was going to get the mon I wanted, so it is Kyurem Black. Notable stats: 150 attack stat, 95 speed stat. Obviously not that fast, but still at a nice speed tier. He has natural bulk, so it definitely fulfills my desire to have bulky offense. It has nice coverage. I guess that should probably more say usable coverage, because it gets like Earth Power, Focus Blast, Fusion Bolt, but it's not crazy. It's nothing obscene. So it can make it work, and I am excited to try to use it, even though it is probably going to be predictable what coverage I will be running. And there are some variable movesets I can try. Obviously, there are bulky ones with Roost. There are all-out offensive ones with Life Orb. There are mixed ones with special attacks and physical attacks, all kinds of stuff. So I am definitely excited to give this guy a whirl. Like I said earlier, I have no experience with most of these mons, and Kyurem Black is no exception. I have never used him in draft and have really never even used him laddering as far as I can remember, so definitely excited to try him out. Notable moves, I sort of touched on most of these. Fusion Bolt is a nice, powerful physical electric move that lets him hit water types. Roost can make him bulkier and stick around longer. And Hail has synergy with his Z Crystal, which is something you see in the top right. That's how I denote which one of my Pokemon are Z Crystal users. So we have 3 of them on the draft. I think I forgot to put it in on the other 2, so I'll just have to tell you guys manually that they're my Z Crystal my Z Crystal users. You'll just have to trust me. The way it works, there are 3 Mons that can use Z crystals. They don't have to, and they don't have to use 1 Z crystal like permanently. But anyways, Z Hail raises your speed by 1 as well as setting up the Hail. So that's a really nice thing for Kyurem, who is sort of struggling at the speed set he is at. If he can essentially have a Choice Scarf but also be able to switch moves, that'll be really awesome. So definitely excited to try that out. Overall satisfaction, obviously 10 out of 10. I had no danger of getting sniped, and I knew I really wanted this thing, so there's really no reason for me to not be fully satisfied with Kyurem Black, and I am. Next up is Toxapex. I was nervous about this guy because I was going to be the last picker of the A2 picks, but Toxapex was still around, and I am very pumped to have him just because of his crazy defenses. 152 defense, 142 special defense, has access to Regenerator, which is disgusting, as well as reliable recovery, which makes him extremely challenging to kill. And of course, he is a bulky water type with Scald, making him even more annoying to kill. So a great bulky Pokemon that I am very happy with, satisfies the water requirement of my Fire, Water, Grass defensive core. Notable moves, you can stack those Toxic Spikes, which is a way for me to set up hazards. He has the new move Liquidation that lowers the opponent's defenses. It is a physical water move, so I could do some weird mixed thing if I still wanted Scald, but if I want to run a physical Toxic Spikes, I can look to Liquidation instead of Scald. And his other new move is actually Baneful Bunker, which sort of acts like Spiky Shield, but instead poisons the opponent when they attack you, so that is definitely cool, especially with one of his abilities, Merciless, which causes you to crit every move that is used on a target that is poisoned. So that is very cool. Overall satisfaction, once again, 10 out of 10. Very happy to have picked this guy up, especially once we look at my next pick. I'm just really happy to have this bulky water type in my draft, and I think he will serve me well. But he is great, especially with my first B tier pick, which is Tangrowth, who fulfills the grass requirement of my Fire, Water, Grass core, but also has Regenerator. So we have a pretty disgusting Regenerator core that is also going to be a Water Grass core as well. So that's awesome. Tangrowth can switch into electric type attacks for Toxapex, whereas Toxapex can switch into fire type attacks and ice type attacks aimed at Tangrowth. So looking now exclusively at Tangrowth, 125 defense, 110 special attack, really great stats in HP attack, defense, and special attack. Obviously his special defense is low and his speed set is even lower, but that's okay, I'm not too worried about his speed. He has access to Sleep Powder, which obviously is a great utility to have. Doesn't have Spore, which kind of sucks. I was considering Amoonguss, but since I already had Toxapex, I decided against having 2 poison types, and I think I made the right choice. Obviously, Amoonguss would have also had a Regenerator, so that would have been cool too. And just what I pretty much already said earlier, he has really nice mixed stats that can make him both offensive or physically defensive, and makes him very versatile in that effect. His moveset is not the most diverse, but obviously he has Leech Seed, which I think works great with Regenerator because he can seed the opponent and switch out, causing whatever I send in to gain the healing of Leech Seed, while Tangrowth gains the healing of Regenerator. So I think that's really awesome for Tangrowth to have. Also has Knockoff to get rid of the opponent's item, which is amazing in draft-based format, but also just generally, Knockoff is a great move. And also gets Swords Dance now. He doesn't have crazy coverage, gets Knockoff like you see, gets Poison Jab. I think gets Air Release and maybe Brick Break and Grass Stab. So not anything crazy, but can definitely be scary. His attack stat is pretty high, and if you're boosting it even higher, he can be pretty terrifying. So not very fast, but still, it is an option for me if I don't want to be just lead seeding and protecting and being annoying. Overall satisfaction, once again, 10 out of 10. Gives me my grass wall, which I was really looking for, and I am very happy with a second Regenerator user, so that is awesome. Next up is actually Talonflame. Let me get a sip of water first, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Next up is actually Talonflame. Now, I was looking for a bulky fire type to complete the core, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it now or later. I ended up doing it now. It kind of sucked because Arcanine was taken, but more importantly, Rotom Heat was taken. And as we talk about this, you might be able to see why I picked this sort of as a replacement for Rodent Heat. It has 126 speed, which is something Rodent Heat lacks. The real reason I picked this Talonflame is because it has access to U-turn. I wanted a pivoting bulky fire type because I think being able to pivot with a regenerator core is really disgusting, because if you can keep getting those things switched in and out, you're just going to keep healing repeatedly, and it's going to get out of control. So I really wanted a pivoter. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of pivoting fire types. It's like Rodent Heat and Talonflame, and I'm sure there are others that I'm not thinking of, but they were not really. Since Rodent Heat was already taken, that was the one I really wanted, especially because it was an electric type and gave me a flying resist as well as a ground immunity. But you can't have everything. I still got the ground immunity, I still got the fire type, I still got the pivoter. It's just not really as bulky. It has more reliable sustain. It can be a stall breaker, which is nice. Has taunt and Will-O-Wisp, and Roost, which can whittle stall Pokemon, which is nice to have. I feel like a lot of battles in draft-based format end up being kind of stally. Like the first 15 turns or whatever will just be people switching and exchanging Toxics because everyone's so terrified to make the first move. So I think Talonflame will be great in that aspect. Gale Wings, I should note, got nerfed this generation. You only have priority on your flying type move when you are at full HP, which is obviously a pretty serious nerf, because Talonflame's main offensive moves are Brave Bird and Flare Blitz, both of which have recoil, which means both of them, if you use them, will cause you to no longer have priority on your next flying type move if you go for it. So that really sucks. I don't think it's going to be that bad offensively, just because this thing is so fast. It's going to be outspeeding most of the unboosted Pokemon anyways, so I don't think that's the part that's going to suck. What is going to suck is I'm not going to have priority Roost on stall breaking sets, which is one of the main reasons it can be such a great stall breaker. So that definitely sucks, but it's okay. I'm going to try this thing out. I really wanted Rodent Heat, but I guess you can't have everything. Notable moves: Tailwind to help out the rest of my team, make them faster, I think is going to be really scary, especially on a bulky offensive team like the one I have. I already talked about Will-O-Wisp, always great to burn opponents and cripple their attack stat, even though Will-O-Wisp got kind of nerfed this gen, doesn't deal as much damage. And then finally gets Bulk Up. I think this might be more useful than Swords Dance, just because of the Gale Wings nerf. It might be better for you to actually get bulkier and more offensive, as opposed to just straight up offensive, because you won't have that guaranteed priority. Overall satisfaction, 8 out of 10. I'm still happy with them. I'm not trying to like diss on Talonflame. It's just not. It's not like perfectly filling the role I want. It's not that bulky. It's still pretty bulky. It's just not as bulky as I would have wanted. I would have liked Rodent Heat, but it's fine. Still a pivoter. Still will be able to take advantage of my regenerator users, hopefully. It is quad weak to rocks, which is sort of one of the cons. But yeah, like I said, you can't have it all, and I am definitely still happy with them. So let's look at my final B tier pick, which is actually Nidoking. So now we're going for more of my offensive mons as opposed to the defensive core. So really great mixed stats, can be physical or special. Obviously you think of him more as a special user because of all the crazy coverage he has, but there have been many instances of people being successful with his physical side. He has like Sucker Punch and Earthquake and Poison Jab and stuff like that, so he can definitely still be very scary on the physical side. Like I said, Sheer Force and crazy coverage kind of go hand in hand. He has Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Shadow Ball. I don't know if I already said Flamethrower, I think I did, but of course also gets his dual stab of Earth Power and Sludge Wave, all of which benefit from Sheer Force, which is insane. I think making the Nidos the best Sheer Force users in the game, just because of the versatility, which makes them truly disgusting, I think, in draft-based format, because typically coverage tends to make you more viable. I think that's a very, very broad statement, but I think more often than not it holds to be true. The more ways you can hit your opponent, the more ways you can plan for the defensive threats they might, or sorry, not the defensive threats, but the defensive answers to you, the more powerful you are. So I think that's a great thing for Nidoking. And he's also variable choice user. Again, with the variety, he can be scarfed, he can be specs, he can be banned, he can be pretty much anything I want, and he fills many different roles. As we look at the notable moves, he can be a phaser with Dragon Tail, he can be a stealth rocker as well, so I got my rocker almost immediately, and he also has substitute. I just threw that on there because Nidoking isn't at the greatest speed stat, so if he can get behind a sub and just sort of get a free hit off, if he outspeeds, great, maybe he can kill. If he can't outspeed, he only took 25%, he can switch out the following turn, and I think it's going to be nice, especially if I have a defensive core to support him. So I did give him a 9 out of 10. I am actually very happy with him just because of the versatility. Maybe I am putting too much weight on versatility. I know that's something I'm almost always looking for, but it's served me so well in the past. Not Nidoking, because I've never had Nidoking, but I just mean versatility has served me so well in the past, looking at stuff like Infernape. It's just crazy pressure on your opponent when they're team building, so that is great. So yeah, moving on to now my C tier picks. The first one is Hitmontop. So this is the first and only Pokemon, let me think. Yeah, I think this is the first and only Pokemon I have drafted before. So he is my spinner at 110 special defense and still 95 attack. So he can be bulky, as I know. He has Intimidate, so he can sort of get physically bulky, but also has high special defense. And a 95 attack stat will hit hard, especially with close combat, as you can see under notable moves. Obviously not ideal to be lowering your defenses on a wall, but if he wants to hit hard, he definitely can. Like I said, he's my spinner, and also he gets a lot of priority. He gets Fake Out, Mach Punch, Sucker Punch, Bullet Punch, so he just gets all these weird priority moves for what seems like no reason. I'm not really sure why. Like, he doesn't even have hands. I'm not sure how he's going for these, like, this Fake Out shenanigans, but somehow he is. So yeah, especially with his other ability, Technician, he can make use of that with all of his priority moves, so that is pretty cool to see. I put Pursuit under notable moves just because it came up clutch in a match against Kraken Nation last season. But Pursuit really just represents all of the tech moves that this guy can run. There's a lot of versatile things you can do with Hitmontop, and I think it catches a lot of people off guard. And Pursuit is just there because I personally have actually used that, and you can see that it worked for me. So Bulk Up is also there because this guy can set up if he wants to. He has that really high speed F stat, so it'll be nice to boost his defense instead, as well as his attack to hit harder. Does not get Drain Punch, which sucks. It means he's not going to have a great time taking hits and also trying to get bulkier, but it is C tier, so you can't have it all. Overall satisfaction is 7 out of 10. I just sort of randomly picked this thing. I wasn't planning to have him. I realized that I needed a spinner and probably needed him quickly because there are so few ways to clear hazards in lower tiers. So luckily Hitmontop was not sniped and I was able to pick him up. So definitely happy to have him on the team once again, even though one of my main points was to try to stay away from Pokemon I have already used. It's okay. So next we actually have another fighting type in Scrafty, who does not have 155 defenses. I should say 115 defenses. He has 115 defense and 115 special defense, which makes him very bulky, but also has a 90 attack stat. So pretty similar to Scrafty and pretty similar to everything on this team, like just bulky offense is what I was going for. So he has great abilities that he can use defensively or offensively. Obviously, Intimidate would be on the defensive side, but he also gets Moxie and even Shed Skin. Shed Skin can go either way. Moxie is definitely an offensive move. And sort of leads into my next point, which is he can be a booster with Dragon Dance as one of his scarier sets, being able to just set up and sweep through teams that aren't ready for him. You don't really think of it because he's kind of slow, but if he can get going, he can hit hard, especially because he still has knockoff. He has access to Drain Punch to get himself more health, and he has great coverage. He has the elemental punches, he gets Stone Edge, I think he gets Earthquake, I don't personally remember, I'm sorry, but he hits hard with like high jump kick or Drain Punch if you want to go for the safer route. There's just a lot of different choices for him, and he has the coverage to make his offensive sets work, but he has the bulk to make his defensive sets work. So definitely excited. I put Thief on here. I think Thief often gets outshone by Knockoff just because Knockoff gets rid of, like, they both essentially get rid of the opponent's item, and with Thief you need to not have an item in the first place, plus you might not even like the item they have, but it could turn the tables. If I get some clutch item, that could be cool. but I think more often than not, knockoff is going to be the way to go. And he can also phase with Dragon Tail, so that's something else lending to his defensive side. He can get rid of Pokemon who are boosting, because I don't think Dragon Tail is that common on Scrafty, so that would be cool to see as well if I can pull that off. So again, overall satisfaction, 7 out of 10. Gives me another fighting type, which I wasn't really looking for. I got 2 fighting types in this tier, which gives me obviously a flying weakness. Scrafty is a dark type, so it gives me a psychic immunity, which is nice because I actually had a pretty good number of psychic weaknesses and no resists up until this point. However, it gives me another fighting resist, which is something, or sorry, another fighting weakness, which is something we're going to be seeing later on as well. So yeah, 7 out of 10, not great, but for some reason I've always wanted Scrafty in past seasons and I've never been able to get him. So when I saw him available this season, I just kind of jumped on him without thinking about it too hard. And he is a dark type, so I was looking for that, and I guess it's okay. Definitely bulky offense, so I'll take it. Next are the D tier picks, the first of which is Piloswine, again a fighting weakness, as we will continue to see actually, unfortunately. 100 HP, 100 attack, has thick fat so we can take fire and ice type moves better, just like Mamoswine. Also is an Eviolite user, which if you don't know, boosts your defense and special defense by 50%, so makes him even bulkier. He's not that bulky without it, so it's probably going to be sort of necessary for me to run Eviolite if I want to run a defensive Piloswine. So that is sort of sucks because he becomes pretty useless if they go for a knockoff, but still, Eviolite user. Can throw people off guard if I don't actually have Eviolite and if I'm just running like some offensive Piloswine. He has the Edgequake combination, which is great to see, especially on a low tier mon like this. He can hit hard with Earthquake, obviously as stab. He can hit with a Icicle Crash, also stab, also powerful, and has Stone Edge to hit everything in between. So that is cool. Notable moves: Stealth Rocker, another Hazard Setter for me, has access to Curse, which I don't think I've ever seen before, and feels like it could be pretty good, especially since he has priority Ice Shard. So maybe Curse, we can make that happen. And then finally has Amnesia. I just threw this on here as another boosting move. His special defense is not that high, so if you can catch someone off guard and start going for Amnesias, that could be interesting. He does not have reliable recovery, so I don't think by any means it'll be a useful move, but I thought it was notable nevertheless. Overall satisfaction is 6 out of 10. Gives me another fighting weakness, like I said. However, it gives me an Earthquaker, it gives me a Stealth Rock user, it gives me priority, so I'm pretty happy with it. And I think it's a pretty high tier mon in D tier. Like, I think it's pretty good for where it is, so I'm definitely happy with him. And then next up, we actually have Aggron. I just randomly picked this thing, and it's another quad weakness to fighting, so not great, but has 180 defense, so hopefully he can take those fighting moves anyways, and he actually has some really nice defensive typing. I didn't think he did. Like, when I just thought of Aggron, I feel like you think automatically of the quad weakness to fighting and the quad weakness to ground. You're just like, never mind, this thing's a piece of trash. But he has 180 defense, okay? So most fighting type moves are physical, and most ground type moves are Earthquake, so you probably can take them anyways. And also, his only other weakness is to water. He resists, is immune, or is neutral to literally everything else. So that is pretty awesome, and it was, for some reason, not something I was expecting to see. So definitely happy to see that. Not expecting to get that nice defensive typing. I'm not even sure why, it's just some weird assumption I made that was clearly incorrect. Another Hazard Setter obviously gets Stealth Rocks. We have a lot of those now, and he has a lot of great coverage, question mark. He has all these special moves. He has like electric moves, he has fire moves, he has water moves, he has ice moves. Like, he just gets everything for some reason. He got the normal type treatment, and I'm like, not sure why. Like, what about Aggron makes you think he can suddenly start belching fire? But clearly he can, and that makes him very strange. Like, he doesn't have a high special attack stat, obviously, but still, it's an option for me to use that can make him even crazier than he already is. So, more notable moves: he has Thunder Wave to slow things down, Rock Polish to speed himself up, and Rest is his only form of recovery. However, since he is so defensive, I feel like he can actually kind of make use of that if he's in on a physical attacker, just because he'll probably be taking hits so well, he can afford to go to sleep for 2 turns, so that is pretty cool. Overall satisfaction, 8 out of 10. I'm not really sure why I picked this thing. I think Krakenation just suggested I take it in the live stream, and I just hopped on it because, at this point, I was completely beside myself. I had no idea what I wanted. I was just picking random things at this point, and Aggron happened to be there. It gives me a steel type though, which is something I didn't have. It gives me a lot of nice resistances to things I was not already resisting, like psychic and flying and stuff like that. So that is awesome. And dragon. That's really cool to have Aggron on the team. So moving on to E tier. First one is Kangaskhan. I wanted Tauros, I believe, but I decided to go for Kangaskhan instead because last time I wanted Tauros, I ended up getting Bouffalant, and I didn't want to get the same thing again. So we have Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan is my Z Crystal, one of my Z Crystal users, and Nidoking is my other one. So the three are Kyurem Black, Nidoking, and Kangaskhan. I mostly just picked the ones that had the most diverse coverage. I guess I could have picked Aggron, but maybe I'll switch it. I'm not sure. I do have the opportunity to either switch Z Crystal Mons or free agent Mons, so I'll see what happens in the coming weeks of the season. But regardless, mixed stats, nothing too crazy, but nothing terrible either. Has Scrappy, so it can hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves. Always nice. Has nice coverage. This guy got the normal type treatment, so similar to Aggron. Has like electric moves, fire moves, grass moves, stuff like that. So that is great as well. It is a normal type, which seems like self-explanatory, but normal types I think are really nice. Only weak to fighting, also immune to ghost. Can be hard to deal with for opponents who do not have a fighting type, and if I want to run a bulkier set, so that is awesome as well. Notable moves, well, Fake Out and Sucker Punch I think are mainly known to be used on Mega Kangaskhan, but regular Kangaskhan gets them too, so Fake Out is cool. It's stab, it prevents your opponent from doing anything, you just essentially get free damage for nothing, so that's always cool. Sucker Punch is more priority, that can catch people off guard if they're at low amounts of health, and Circle Throw is another phasing move that I didn't even realize Kangaskhan gets that forces out the opponent, so that is cool also. Overall satisfaction, 6 out of 10. I wanted Tauros, I don't know, Tauros probably still wouldn't have gotten 10 out of 10. I just wanted a normal type that had fun coverage, so went with the Kangaskhan. Don't really have high standards, but we'll see what he does. Next up is my Haunter. Overall satisfaction, 4 out of 10. Just getting that out of the way so you know that I am really not expecting anything from the Haunter. However, just running through it quickly, 115 special attack, 95 speed, same speed as Kyurem, so not that fast but not that slow either. Gets the nice coverage, sort of same as Gengar. Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, I think that's it, but also of course gets Shadow Ball and Sludge Wave, so that's cool. It retained Levitate, unlike Gengar who now has Cursed Body. Haunter still represents a ground immunity, so that is cool, and there are some variable sets you can run on, mostly on like the defensive side. You can run Will-O-Wisp, you can run Destiny Bond, you can run Disable, you can run Trick Room, sort of everything you see on notable moves. Offensively, I don't think there's many choices for you. Like, you have the coverage to fill a moveset, but that's pretty much it. So I don't really see him having that much diversity offensively, but if I were to mix an offensive and defensive set, or just have a defensive set, there are definitely a couple choices for me to utilize, which I just talked about with the notable moves, Destiny Bond, Trick Room, and Will-O-Wisp. Also gets Curse and Disable, so that is cool as well. Again, overall satisfaction, 4 out of 10. Not really expecting anything crazy out of Haunter, but we'll see what he does. And finally, F tier pick, not picks, just one of these. The trash tier pick is actually Mr. Mime. Now, I didn't have a Fairy or a Psychic type until this guy rolled around, so I was really hoping I would get him just to fill those two typings for me, and I really like this guy because he has 120 SPDF and 115 special attack, so again with the bulky offense, has cool abilities in Filter or Technician or even Soundproof. I guess you could try to run Soundproof, but I'm foreseeing Filter as being more effective than Soundproof. I don't even understand why this thing gets Filtered, but I'm not going to be complaining on reduced damage from super effective attacks. Has nice coverage, just again similar to Aggron actually. It gets like electric moves and fire moves and grass moves, so that will be nice for him hitting potential switch-ins like fire moves on steel types and stuff like that. It has helpful typing, sort of talking about that on that similar note, because his psychic typing can hit the poison types that would threaten his fairy typing, whereas his fairy typing can hit the dark types that would threaten his psychic typing. So I think it's kind of cool to see that. It's nice to have a Pokemon whose typings sort of mesh together and complement each other. Obviously, he gets totally boned by steel types, but we won't think about that too much. He also completely bones fighting types, so who knows? I do have a ton of fighting weaknesses, so I thought this guy might come in handy. Notable moves, Healing Wish. I had no clue this guy got Healing Wish, but that can really catch people off guard. Can set up an easy win condition if you're able to time it right. Nasty Plot is great because it makes him even scarier, but he still maintains that bulk of 120 Spadef and potentially Filter. And then finally Thunder Wave to slow down opponents, make other Pokemon's job easier, and just synergizing well with the general theme of not having that much speed on this team. So overall satisfaction, 7 out of 10. I really just blindly picked him because I didn't have a Fairy or a Psychic type, and I was just super set on Mr. Mime for that reason. I don't know if he'll serve me that well. For some reason I felt like I had drafted this thing before, but maybe I'm just thinking of the playthrough. It's interesting because in the playthrough I have a Tangrowth as well as a Mr. Mime, and now they are both in my draft of season 7 as well. So that is kind of funny in my opinion. But anyways, that is actually it. So overall, if we just scroll on back to the notes from earlier, I feel like I fulfilled the bulky offense really well. I got a pretty strong balanced defensive core. Talonflame being in there kind of sucks, but Toxapex and Tangrowth, I hope, are going to be gross together. And in terms of hazard control, I kind of dropped the ball on this one because I got a ton of ways to set up hazards, but not a ton of ways to remove them. I only have Rapid Spin on Hitmontop and like Defog on Talonflame, which, I mean, unless they're setting up spikes, I'm not going to be bringing Defog Talonflame, so that kind of sucks. I dropped the ball on the clearing side. I definitely picked up the ball on the setting up side, but tons of ways to set up hazards, not a ton of ways to remove them. So sort of get a half point there. I think I get 3/4 of a point on bulky offense, and then, or sorry, 3/4 of a point on the defensive core, and a full point on the bulky offense. So let me know what you think down in the comment section. You can leave suggestions or your prediction on who will be the MVP down there, and I would love to see that. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. This has been Daniel, and EnteiTainment out.